Good morning, everyone. Allow me to introduce the reporters for today's discussion. So we have Mr. Jobert Estea, Mr. Ariel Arnopia, and yours truly, Shumara Martin Wana. And for today, we're going to tackle about the GMO, or the Genetically Modified Organism, Science, Health, and Society. But before we discuss about the GMO, I want you to know first the difference between genetically modified and genetically engineered. So I want you to take note of this because wala ni namo siya gi-include sa amuang PowerPoint. So when we say of GM, it means genetically modified. And when we say of GMO, it means, yes, genetically modified organism. But when we say GE, it means, okay, genetically engineered. So an organism is considered genetically engineered if it was modified using techniques that permit the direct transfer or removal of genes in that specific organism. Is it clear? Okay, so through genetic engineering, scientists are able to move desirable genes from one plant or animal to another, or from a plant to an animal, vice versa. It means that it can produce an outcome that is regarded as generally beneficial or useful. So the organism that has undergone such genetic modification is referred to, or what we call the genetically modified organism, or in short, the GMO. Is it clear? Are we clear? Okay, so to further discuss about the GMO, Mr. Ariel Arnopia will take it away.
Hello, good morning everyone, especially to our teacher, Mr. Ramil Ligado. So this morning our topic is all about the GMOs. So what are GMOs, or some GMOs? So before we'll tackle our topic, let me introduce myself first. I am Ariel Arnopia, and I am the first reporter from Group 5. So, genetically modified organisms, or the GMOs, is organisms that has been altered through recombinant DNA technology. So it is an organism. So ang GMO is an organisms that giusab siya through recombinant of DNA technology, and it involves either combining DNA from different genomes or the insertion of foreign DNA into a genome. So it involves GMO is, or the genetically modified organism is subsidized through combining different DNA genomes, so para makaproduce sila og nindot, or mas makaproduce sila og bag-o nga, like for example the fruits. So for example fruits, so ang gene sa fruits sa usa din ilang combine sa different genes sa lain nga prutas. That's why makaproduce sila og mas nindot nga kind sa prutas. So that was the process, or that was the kanang sa tawagan ng product sa GMOs, kanang mga, like for example makita na tarog mga dagko nga prutas or mga talong, like mga prutas or mga gulay na mga dagko kayo. It's because of the process of GMO. So the most common genetically modified organisms are crop plants. So mao yun ay kasagaran nga ilang i-modified ang mga crop plants, it's because if normal lang mga crop plants is dili siya ka igong supply sa mga tawis. It's because karon nga panahon is more daghan na og population, mas nisaka na population, so need nila nga mo process og more moagi og GMOs or mao na buon ni sa mga scientist ang GMOs. It's because para masupplyan ang tanan nga mga tao. It's because we are na karon kanang daghan na kay ta karon, so para masupplyan tang tanan, para maigo-igo. So that's why nas like experiment. So mao na lang gitawag og genetically modified organisms. So ilang gi-modified ang mga organisms para mas malaghan baron or mas dagko or nindot siya tabas or nindot siya quality. So microbes are the first organism genetically modified. So why is microbes are the first organisms to be modified? Okay, so why is microbes the first organism nga ilang gi-modified? It's because microbes manggod is ang microbes manggod is easier kay siya nga modified. It's because dali ra ma-modified ang ilang chromosomes. That's why microbes ang pinaka first organism nga ilang gi-modified. Next, let's proceed to the two common types of GMO. So there are two most common types of GMO. So first is the food, and second is the medicine. Okay, so food. Okay, so first is food. Crops are modified to develop resistance and increase their nutrients content. For example, corn and soybeans. Okay, so ang mga foods is like corn is ilang gipang usab para makabuo sila og kanang indot nga produkto or para daghan siya og mga nutrients para daghan siya, mas more ang iyang nutrients. So mo na nga gigamitan nila og ilagi modified ba. So if familiar mo sa tawagan na yun, sa hybrid na mais, so I think that is one of the product of GMO. I guess this ko sure, pero murag mao na siya. The next is fruits are modified to make them ripen later. This help them be available fresh in marketplace during a long period of time. So ang mga fruits like for example apple is ilang gipang usab para dili siya dali madunot o nindot sa siya o produkto, especially if ara na sa merkado. So kasagaran nga normal nga prutas lang is dali ra siya madunot. So muna nga ilang gi paagi or ilang gigamitan ani nga ilang gi modified para mas dili siya dali madunot o magdugay siya sa merkado. So more advantage siya nga nananing genetically modified organisms. Next number 2 is medicines. This can be produced cheaper and easier. Some are insulin, thyroid hormones, and the hepatitis B vaccines. So tungod sa GMO, ang ubang medicine is librato na siya or mas barato o mas dali na siya ma-access. It's because of daghan naman sila kay gi-modified biya gipagi na og GMO. Next, so this can be produced cheaper and easier. So some are insulin, thyroid hormones, and the hepatitis vaccine. So siya is so easy na kay siya makuan. So next is the genetically modified bacteria. Genetically modified bacteria have been particularly important in producing treatments like clothing factors for hemophilia and human growth hormones to treat dwarfism. Okay, so it's very important guys, ano. So ang genetically modified bacteria is very important siya. So for hemophilia and human growth hormones to treat dwarfism. Okay, so it's very important guys, ano. So ang genetically modified bacteria is very important siya. So understandable naman kaya siya. So let's proceed to the next topic. We'll see. Next is the existing models. Okay, so first is the transgenic plants. Okay, so what do you mean by transgenic? So when can we say if the plants if that kind of plants is transgenic? Okay, so we can see if it is a transgenic if ang DNA niya is gikan sa different species na gihalo sa ang for example the BT rice, or familiar ba mo sa BT rice? So mao niya ang one of the examples of GMO transgenic, because ang iyang silbipalay is gibutangan og DNA nga gikan sa bakterya. Ilang gitawag og Bacillus thuringiensis. So mao gitawag siya og BT rice. It's because BT means Bacillus thuringiensis nga gikan sa bakterya nga mao gisagol sa rice, sa palay sa rice. Okay, so next is the genetically modified crops. Genetically modified crops in agriculture. Genetically engineered crops are wet to possess several desirability traits such as resistance to pests, herbicides, or harass environmental conditions. Okay, so genetically modified crops is mao ni ilang ang mga tanom nga gigamit sa atong agrikultura. So ang DNA ani is giusab gamit ang genetic engineering method. Next is the microbes. So microbes, no, if you remember what I said earlier nga mo ni ang first genetically modified. Okay, so microbes, bacteria were the first organism to be modified in the laboratory due to their simple genetics. Yes, mo ni ako isulti ganina nga because simple kay siya may first one. Okay. These organisms are now used for several purposes and are particularly important in producing large amounts of pure human proteins for use in medicine. And genetically modified bacteria are used to produce the protein insulin to treat diabetes. Yes, that's it. Next is let's proceed to the production of genetically modified organisms. Genetically modified organisms. Genetic modification involves the insertion or deletion of genes. When genes are inserted, they usually come from a different species, which is a form of horizontal gene transfer. Agrobacterium is bacteria that uses a horizontal gene transfer, or the HGT. Horizontal gene transfer, or the HGT, is the transfer of DNA between different genomes. Principal objective of production. The basic principle for producing a GMO was to add new genetic material into an organism genome. So this is called genetic engineering and was possibly possible through the discovery of DNA and the creation of the first recombinant DNA molecules by Paul Birch in 1972. Okay. Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. So, this is the continuation of the topic being discussed by Sir Ariel. And my topic is all about intended purpose for the genetic modification of mammals. So, let's start. To research human diseases, for example, to develop animal models for these diseases. An example of this is that mammals are the best models for human disease, making genetic engineered ones vital to the discovery and development of cures and treatments for many serious diseases. Knocking out genes responsible for human genetic disorders allows researchers to study the mechanism of the disease and to test possible cures. So, mammals are a group of vertebrate animals. So vertebrate animals kanang mga with backbones like an example of mammals includes rats, cats, dogs, deer, monkeys, apes, bats, whales, dolphins, and humans. And etc. nga with backbones. Mao na ang mammals. So next is to produce industrial or consumer products. So next, it gives to produce industrial or consumer products. So an example of this is that some benefits of genetic engineering in agriculture are increased crop yields, reduced cost for food or drug production, reduced need for pesticides, enhanced nutrients, composition and food quality, resistance to pest and disease, greater food security and medical benefits to the world's growing population. The GMOs have also been developed to improve nutritional content. For example, golden rice contains higher vitamin, a content to reduce blindness in impoverished communities, but unfortunately, its approval has been stalled. So, example, there are a variety of reasons that GMOs are created, and they serve many purposes. First, let's start with a definition of the GMO. GMO crops are developed with genetic engineering, a more precise breeding technique that enables someone to take individual traits found in nature and transfer them to another plant, or make changes to an existing trait in a plant. You may also heard of agricultural biotechnology or biotech seeds. These are terms that may be used to refer to the same thing as a genetically modified organisms or GMO. Then, other GMOs have been developed to extend the shelf life of fruits and vegetables and to produce food waste. So, an example of this is that advances have also been made in developing crops that mature faster and tolerate aluminum, boron, salt, drought, frost, and other environmental stresses, allowing plants to grow in conditions where they might not otherwise flourish. Then, and the last one is that additionally, future GMOs could reduce drought susceptibility and improve nutrient uptake by crops. So, there are many reasons and positive impacts stemming from the creation of GMOs. One being to develop crops with pest-resistant traits and or crops that are resistant to low-cost, environmental safer herbicides. These crops varieties mean fewer and are least troublesome
Chemicals are needed to control various crops pests. And that's all. Thank you and God bless everyone.
So for the last topic, we will talk about the pros and cons of genetically modified organism. So of course, there are advantages and disadvantages when it comes to modifying organism because it requires a lot of process in transferring and in removing genes from an organism to another. So, nadyo na siya yung mga complications. But, there are also good effects sa atoa. So, let's discuss about that. The pros of genetic engineering. First, we have the production of human insulin. The patients who suffer from diabetes are not capable of producing enough insulin. So, there arises a need for such people to obtain insulin from external sources. So, have you heard insulin? Have you heard from your neighbors, your parents, from the marites? Have you heard from them? 'Di ba? Insulin nga moingon hala si Marisol kay kanang nag-insulin na biya na, 'di ba? Nakadungog na tanan. Familiar ba ang tanan? Okay, yes. Insulin is an essential hormone that is produced by the pancreas. Its main role is to control the glucose level in our bodies. Or in short, mo na siya ang gamiton para mo stable ang sugar level, 'di ba? Kay ang uban mo abot mag 400, 500 lipong-lipong na ang agi kay grabe kay makainom og coke, 'di ba? So the production of insulin mo na siya ang treatment sa naay mga patients who suffers from diabetes. With the help of genetic engineering, human genes can be transferred into another mammals for the production of insulin. Gets? Okay. Next, we have the use in gene therapy. It can be used as a treatment of various genetic disorder and disease like sickle cell anemia or Down syndrome. So, nasa tay mga organisms nga gipang add or gipang remove or gipang mugna sa mga experts, sa mga researchers, mga scientists para maka-treat sa man mga naay genetic disorder. Dili man siya totally cure, but maka-treat siya para mo lower ang pain and controls the controls the pain, yes, and also to lesser the symptoms mo na siya. Next, we have the usage in agriculture. Genetic modification or engineering is used for increasing the production of crops, pest control, weed management, and etc. Agricultural plants are one of the most frequently cited examples of genetically modified organisms or GMOs. Some benefits of genetic engineering in agriculture are increased crop yields, reduced cost for food and drug production, reduced needs for pesticides, enhanced nutrient composition and food quality, and resistance to pests and diseases, greater food security, and medical benefits to the world's growing population. Advances have also been made in developing crops that mature faster and tolerate drought, frost, and other environmental stressors, allowing plants to grow in conditions where they might not otherwise flourish or function. Muna siya. Modified foods are also produced to make them more nutritive. Certain GMO crops are designed to provide more nutrients like vitamins or minerals. For example, researchers have been able to create a modified form of African corn that contains like 2 times as much folate when compared to a traditional crops, 6 times as much vitamin C when compared to traditional crops. So, mas more jud ang nutrient niya kaysa DNA pa lang nga imong gi-transfer sa kana nga crop. Makakuan man ka, maka-select man ka kung unsa imong i-implant ato nga crop para mas more basta para maka-contain siya og more nutrient mo na siya. This may be helpful especially in regions where people suffer from nutritional deficiencies. So mo ni siya uban kanang kakuan man ang busog-lusog nga program kanang ilahang mga food nga gipangkuan nana siya mga GMO. Some dili jud ko moingon nga tanan, but as I have observed naay GMO or naay genetically modified organism nga nakuan sa ingredient. Next, GMO crops are that they may contain more nutrients, okay? Una to kung giingon ganina, and are grown with fewer pesticides and are usually cheaper than their non-GMO counterparts. So, GMO crops are bred to grow efficiently. This means that farmers can produce the same amount of food using less land, less water, and fewer pesticides than conventional crops or the traditional crops that we used to know. Because they can save on resources, the food producer can, or the farmers can lower the charges for the GMO foods. In some cases, the cost of foods like corn, beets, and soybeans may be cut by 15% to 30% off. So, mo na siyang cheaper siya kay less man ang resources nga ilang gigamit. Gets? Are we clear? Okay, let's proceed. Tackling and defeating diseases. Some of the most deadly and difficult diseases in the world that have so resisted destruction could be wiped out by the use of genetic engineering. For instance, we have the cystic fibrosis on amnesia. It is an inherited disorder that causes severe damage to the lungs, digestive system, and other organs in the body. Mo na siya, through the genetic engineering, it can ease the symptoms and reduce the complication and improve the quality of life. Cystic fibrosis is a progressive and dangerous disease for which there is no known cure, and it could be completely cured with the help of genetic engineering. I don't know if you can kanang completely cured. Ang ako ra jung nahibaw-an is to treat lang, to ease the symptoms, treat lang, not to cure good. Pero there are selective genetic engineered medications that can really cure that kind of disease. So, let's move on. Sana all naka-move on. We have the genetic engineering can produce new foods. Genetic engineering is not just good for people. With genetic engineering, we can design foods that are better able to withstand harsh temperatures such as a very hot or very cold, for instance, and that they're packed full of all the right nutrients that the humans and animals need. So, muna kung giingon ganina, di ba nga, maka-survive siya sa all nga mga climates, di ba? Genetically modified foodstuffs can be changed so as to have a longer lasting life with the aim of limiting wastage of food. This can be done by creating stronger colors, eliminating seeds, or having the plant to get more adjusting to harsh climatic changes. A lot of foodstuffs that have been advanced have better nutrient percentage such as protein and calcium. So, mo na sad akong giingon ganina, it's very clear, it's very understandable. Yes? Yes? Yes or yes? Are we yes? Okay. So, genetically modified organisms can offer many advantages from agriculture to medical solution. But some experts worry that they can also carry health risks as well. So let's discuss about the disadvantages of GMOs. So the main argument made against activity of genetic modification is that it leads to unpredictable outcomes or side effects. They may be an increase of allergic reaction or food intolerance when it comes to na ingredient na sagol nga ingredient nga gimodify day siya, so we can never tell, di ba? Like for lahi biya gid ta, like ikaw allergic ka sa pasayan, ako dili nya, ako allergic ko sa chicken, ikaw dili, di ba? Na bejo ing nana nya, we can never tell kay ang GMO kay gicompose biya siya og kanang other DNAs nga gi-combine siya. So like for example, nag-modify ka og corn nya, imo siyang gisaglan og Brazilian nuts. So nya ikaw na like for example si Ariel kay allergic sa nuts nya, nikaon siya ato nga corn. So they naajay kanang complications or side effects nga mahitabo nga we can never tell. Okay, so in genetic modification, it is considered as unnatural and doesn't fit in the context of natural ways like breeding, crossing the plants and animals for bringing out the best in them. So, it's very understandable naman no nga if ang imong process nga gihimo kay nag-transfer ka og genes or nag-remove ka og genes sa kuan sa crop or sa animal, na jud na siya, matawag jud na siya og unnatural. So some researchers believe that eating GMO foods can contribute to the development of cancer. So makakuan ko no, eating GMO food kay maka-arise daw siya og health risks such as cancer. They argue that because the disease is caused by the mutations in DNA, it is dangerous to introduce new genes into the body. 'Di ba? Risky kaayo ang process kag inana, mag-modify kag organism. So the possibility of unpredictable alteration taking place in genetic makeup of organism is one of the biggest cause of worries among scientists regarding the whole issue of genetic modification. So it is important to note that FDA or the Food and Drugs Administration has not approved consuming animals that are genetically modified. This stand taken by the FDA implies that they don't want these genetically organisms to become part of the food chain. Okay, daghan kaayo ay gi-argue pa gid na up until now kung safe ba ang kanang ingredient kana ay GMO. So, GMO produced through genetic technologies have become a part of everyday life, entering into society through agriculture, medicine, research, and environmental management. However, while GMOs have benefited human society in many ways, some disadvantages exist. Therefore, the production of GMO remains a highly controversial topic in many parts of the world, except the US or the United States of America. Charot. Bitaw, kanang though there are possible risks daw, major agencies like the US Food and Drugs Administration and the Environmental Protection Agency highly or tightly regulate GMO foods and ensure that they are safe for people to eat. Muna siya ang gi-stand sa mga taga-US. But for me or for the Philippines, kanang nag-research ko about sa mga scientists nga moingon gyud sila nga kanang debatable pa jud ang safetyness or effectiveness sa usage sa GMO. So, to conclude and to protect our health, it is important that we are attentive. So first, any food produced through genetic engineering should be banned until scientifically shown to be safe and safe for everyone. So dapat gyud nga ang FDA mututok jud ani or responsible gyud in labeling GMO ingredients nga masagol sa ato ang food or other substance. In the meantime, kung gi-study pa man gina siya up until now, labeling should be required for any food that contains one genetically engineered, bisag usara na siya, dapat naagid na siya label, or that has been produced using genetically modified organism. Dapat kung usa, diba, like for example, na siya ingredient nga na ay genetically engineered, dapat naagid na siya label sa luyo. Full disclosure labeling will allow consumers to choose what they eat. It will also help scientists to trace the source of health problems as well as the benefits arising from these foods. So, for example, nikaon ka og soybeans sa can, na gibutang na siya sa can, yan ang ingredient ito nga genetically engineered. Nya na kay allergic reaction. So ang doctors kay easily identify din sila nga unsa day imong gikaon. Ina ni allergic ka ni kay this food contains na sa mga kuan. The experts know that. Wala ko alam mag-ana. So mana siya. In conclusion, genetically modified organism or the GMO are undeniably excellent solution in case you want to find methods and techniques in saving lives and saving your food or saving our food. They are very effective means of providing the welfare for the people. But before you apply this method, it is important to study and know its advantages and disadvantages, because this will help you determine if they are the right options or they are worthy to use, and make sure you weigh things up before you decide. So that will be all for our report, and I hope you have learned something. You have attained something about the genetically modified organisms. And if you have any questions in violent reaction, can you please message us in our GC or in our private accounts. So, thank you for listening. Good day. Char lang. Asa naman to? Ito Okay. Mani. Ano siya?